Really? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll have a special gift for you next time you come over to the studio. Yeah, it's going to be fun. I ain't afraid no more. I ain't afraid to say. And if the words are clear, I know that I can say. Busting out the rules that they control. Busting out a dream there in my soul. Busting out the love that won't be sold. I said no. Busting fair. Busting fair. Busting fair. Busting fair.
Welcome to another episode of Busting Fair, and thank you, Bobby Lee, once again for
thank
bringing
you.
us in with that awesome song that you created for the show. I
Yes, I
so
did.
appreciate it.
You're welcome, Carol.
Can we get a image of the people back there in the whisper room on that camera? I just want to say that the fellow waving is Mike, the general manager, and he herds us cats to help us get in line to do all the things that we need to do, and we are all volunteer crew. And then on the, that would be the left side, the far corner there is Ginger. She does the switching. She tells the camera folks what she wants framed up, and then she switches the images back and forth. And then, I'm sorry, I forgot that new lady that's
Valerie.
on the right of Mike.
Rebecca?
Rebecca, yes. She is running the soundboard.
No,
back.
that's Valerie.
Oh, that's
That's my wife.
Oh, this lovely lady.
She's running
Oh.
the
Look in the
soundboard.
camera.
Oh, okay, so that's Valerie. I'm sorry. Okay, so Valerie is Bobby Lee's wife, and she's back there running the soundboard. And if you've ever seen a soundboard, you're going to turn around and walk the other way. There's lots of buttons and knobs on it.
Man.
So I just want to say how much I appreciate all of these people volunteer here. We have people running the cameras. We have people setting up the lights and working the sound, and everybody here is a volunteer. And I just want to say how much I appreciate their loyalty to make this live internet show happen. And this is a live internet broadcast, and you can certainly call in. The number is 360-693-7544, 360-693-7544. And tonight, Sue, as you may know, she's gone for a couple of months. She's in Arkansas, and her daughter is having a new baby. Dixie is gone for a couple of weeks, and about 3 weeks ago, Dixie had an event where she gathers people together in her home. And I was kind of thinking, well, Dixie's gone, Sue's gone, I'm going to be here by myself. I always have something to say, but doesn't necessarily mean I need to say it. And so Barbara, I believe, piped up and said, Katy to my left here, used to have a radio show in Astoria for 9 years, and plus she was in criminal corrections.
Well, I was a Multnomah County Parole and Probation Officer.
Okay.
Adult.
And so she has a very interesting journey, and I'm just learning it with you folks. And so she has gathered some information, and she wants to share a little bit about her own journey, some of the things that she's used in her life to help her bust through her own fear. And so, Katy, if you want to go ahead and start sharing your journey or
Okay.
what you feel comfortable, and then I'll just ask you some questions through this.
Well, that would be great. I told Carol that if there was a degree for overcoming fear, I'd be a doctorate. I'd be a PhD, because I had a lot of fear, especially when I was younger. I had a kind of typical Capricorn childhood, very difficult. My mother was mentally ill. She was a single mom. We were very poor. And I didn't have a safety net under me that fortunately a lot of people have, where their parents support them and give them confidence. Any confidence I got in myself came slowly and over time with a lot of hard work.
What does typical Capricorn mean?
Well, it's a generalization. There's always exceptions, but a Capricorn usually has a very challenging childhood.
Oh, okay.
Even if it looks like to us that they have everything. They could be very born to wealthy parents who send them to private schools and over to Europe and what have you. But from their perspective, there's something difficult in that relationship with either their siblings or parents or all of that.
Okay.
So their perception, and the perception is everything.
Okay.
So we might think their childhood is great, but from their perspective, it's
okay.
not so great.
Okay.
However, there's a reason for that. If you look at the symbol for Capricorn, it's the goat with a fish. Of the bottom half of the symbol is a tail of a, or is a fish.
Okay.
So it symbolizes starting out in the ocean and then working your way up to the mountaintop.
Oh, wow.
The goat climbs
Tough
the mountain
journey.
from the fish in the ocean all the way up to the mountain.
Okay.
And that's kind of what I feel like I've done. Because I had to, as a child, I was very meek and very shy, and I was picked on a lot. And my mother would tell me to turn the other cheek, and sticks and stones will break your bones, but words will never hurt you. Biggest lie you could ever tell a kid.
Oh, yes. Words do hurt.
Yes, very much. And so I went into my early 20s with hardly any confidence. Well, really no confidence. And did manage to get through college. How, I don't know, a lot of hard work.
What did
And
you study?
My bachelor's degree is in psychology,
Oh, okay.
and my master's degree is in criminal justice administration. And that's why I went to work for the corrections department in Multnomah County as an adult parole and probation officer. Because if I worked for 5 years, either for a police department or a corrections agency, basically got my master's paid for.
Oh, okay.
So that was a nice, I mean, I thought, well, I better go to work for corrections. I had no idea that I'd wind up a parole and probation officer. I was just trying to get my master's paid for.
Now, I have heard that a lot of people who go into the field of therapy actually do that to solve their own issues. Did
Oh,
you
yes.
find that that helped you, and then the work that you got into, did that help you further move you through the stuff that was kind of inhibiting you from expressing your authentic self?
It's amazing how many people that wind up as parole and probation officers or therapists have come from dysfunctional childhoods. It really is amazing. And I think that the attraction for a lot of people is the power and control that they think they have over offenders or clients. Of course, power and control is kind of an illusionary thing. It's like you really don't have that much control over offenders when they're your clients, because they leave your office and you don't follow them 24 hours a day. So I had to deal with what I learned from my job is I had to learn how to be confrontive with whatever behavior or action that someone was taking that was not what they had been ordered to do by the court or the parole board. So you have to be able to confront. And up until that time, I couldn't even return something to the store. Yeah. It was like, oh God, don't get mad at me, or whatever. So I had to learn how to be confrontive in a respectful way.
So you not only had to confront, but you had to figure out some way to inspire.
That mostly. Because what I'm most proud of after 20 some years of working with offenders is that I always treated them with respect. You don't have to approve of the behavior that they do, but the person is still a spiritual being on a journey. They may be making some very bad choices for themselves, and they may be hurting themselves and other people. That still does not detract from their worth as a spiritual person.
When did you come to that realization that we're all on a journey in different stages?
Well, I think that as I had to deal with different situations where people could be difficult, it would have been very easy to just get mad, heavy-handed, and start yelling and screaming and doing whatever, arresting them or whatever it was that made you feel powerful in that situation. I don't know. I just took it as a challenge I don't really think you change people that way.
Right. Right.
I think what changes people is getting them to see that it's in their own best interest to do certain things that they need to do to get through the parole and probation process.
And what I mean is, what brought you to the realization that we are all on a spiritual journey, and especially the people that you dealt, what did you learn? What did you study? What came to your awareness to help you understand that?
I had studied Buddhism in my early 20s.
Okay.
And I had read everything I could get my hands on that was what you might call metaphysical.
Okay.
I believed in reincarnation from childhood because my grandfather believed in reincarnation.
And so you and he had conversations about such
Yeah,
things?
so I just didn't question the fact that the reincarnation was a real possibility.
Can you name some of the books that you read that helped you? Or
Well,
whatever
one
it
of
is
my
you studied?
favorites, and she's long since gone, but she was a young woman during World War II, is Vera Stanley Alder's books, From the Mundane to the Magnificent. She wrote a lot of, but that was just absolutely a stunning book where she had a spiritual, she was so upset by World War II, and her sister went out into the countryside to the country home, and they raised vegetables, and they put up officers and enlisted people in the house. And she asked her spirit guides, why are we having this war? What, people being murdered and killed, and mayhem and the horror of it. And a spirit guide came to her that on a full moon and said, every full moon for the next 6 full moons, I will come and take you on a journey. And he took her on a journey. She went astrally, or in the astral plane with him, and he showed her what the body was like. They went into the body of a lieutenant, and they went around and saw that there were spiritual beings, elementals, I think that they were called, that were running the heart and running the lungs, and how the whole body was like a universe. And he took her out to space and showed her how, the universe out there is similar to the universe within the body, and how people are connected to their animals and to each other with this silver cord, which tied right in with the Buddhism that I had studied. Okay,
I'm just going to remind people that this is a live call-in internet broadcast. The number is 360-693-7544. 360-693-7544. And I just want to say, Mike has told me we have 4 viewers right now. We're going viral with 4 viewers. And all the shows are archived at fetv11.org. Also YouTube, FETV stream. And the archive shows viewership is going up. I think one of our shows from the past has like 152 views. So thank you, audience, very much for that. So go ahead, continue with your...
Well, one other thing, and then I'll get off my childhood, my early years. I did a lot of astral travel as a child.
Oh.
I did not know that it wasn't just normal to do.
So you just did that on your own?
Well, I didn't do it with intent. I would just go to sleep, and then the next thing I know, I'd be astrally traveling.
Okay.
And I had spirit guides come and help me through that childhood.
Oh, wonderful.
They would come, and we would sit in the kitchen and talk, in the astral form. So I kind of had the orientation when I started at corrections that we are more than just physical beings.
Okay.
So
you had help.
I had help.
You had help, like that. Heart and Souls, the movie Heart and Souls with Morton Downey Jr. He was a little child, and there were 4 souls attached to him as he went through.
I didn't see that movie. I'd love to see it.
Wonderful! Heart and Souls with Morton Downey Jr. It's probably 15 or so years old. It's really good.
Yeah, I did not. I don't think I could have survived without help.
Yes. Okay.
So, enough about that. But one of the things that I found as a sensitive, caring, I wanted to do right in the world, I wanted to do right by other people, is that what you attract, especially if you don't have healthy boundaries, which I did not have, is you attract a whole bunch of narcissists and or antisocial personality disordered people. They come at you like a fly to honey. because you're easily manipulated. You're trusting. I was a very trusting person. I just couldn't imagine somebody having ill intent because I didn't have any ill intent.
Exactly, yes.
My view of the world was that you treat people decently like you would want to be treated, the golden
Exactly.
rule.
Yes.
So I had a lot of experience with people who were users and manipulators. That's before I got married to a narcissist. So, at any rate, I think the two are confused a lot, narcissism and antisocial personality.
Can you define those?
Well, I can list some characteristics of each one, but they do differ. They have a lot of characteristics in common, like a lack of empathy for others, manipulation, lying when they feel like it, not having much regard for others' boundaries. Those are similar between the two. But narcissism is, according to some of the research, they think is about 50% genetic. So if you have a child by a narcissist, they have a 50% chance of being narcissistic themselves. The other part of narcissism is, I think, cultivated by what happens to people in their childhood and how they're raised. Antisocial personality, we don't really know what causes that, but I think it's a spirit or soul who comes in who has a lot to learn about how to treat people well. They don't necessarily learn it, but they come in. Let's just say they're baby souls.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know how else to put it.
Okay.
But some of the characteristics that I think, should we just talk about some of the characteristics
Sure,
of each
go
one?
ahead.
I wrote some down. The narcissist has a lack of empathy, but so does the antisocial personality disorder. What makes the narcissist a little different from the antisocial is that they have a rather arrogant behavior. Or arrogant manner about themselves, because a lot of times narcissists have had a childhood where in some way or another they were abandoned. Now that does not mean that the parent left them. The parent can be there and still abandon a child emotionally,
Yes.
especially if they have alcohol or drug issues or the inability to love, and that child builds this fantasy self and then tries to convince everybody that that's who they are, and that's a narcissist.
Oh.
So what really makes them different, let me just list a few
Sure.
things, can I?
Go ahead.
On a narcissistic, lack of empathy, they share that with the antisocial. Arrogant behavior makes them a little bit more distinct than from the antisocial. A need for admiration, manipulative, demanding, convinced they deserve special treatment. Now this was true for a lot of my offenders that were on my caseload who are making poor decisions or they wouldn't be in the corrections system, right? But they really do have an idea that the rules only apply to you, not
But
to
yet
them.
they did the behavior to get the attention.
Well, it's either attention or to get what they wanted.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's manipulative. It's whatever they wanted at the moment.
Okay.
So the rules are different. They hold you to a higher standard than they hold themselves.
Oh, okay.
So they're special. That's what they want you to believe, that the rules don't apply to them.
Okay.
And but one of the things I observed about narcissists is they lack humility.
Oh.
And by that I mean they are, if they do something wrong, they're not apt, they very seldom will admit it, much less apologize for it. Because in their mind, what they do is they have a right to do. Let's see. Another thing that can be a trigger, or that can kind of be a red flag that you might be dealing with a narcissist, is that they react to criticism with anger. Now, now nobody likes criticism. I don't like it. None of us like it. But I'm more apt to go, well, I'm more apt to be hurt, and then go and kind of nurse that and think about, okay, was there anything valid about it, and kind of process that.
So you do some self-examination to see if
you have insight.
Sure.
Narcissists they have trouble having any insight because the first thing is it's your fault, not theirs.
So that takes away their need to even do self-examination.
Exactly. And of course, the antisocial doesn't give a damn.
Right.
Can I say damn on TV?
You just did.
You know, it's with a narcissist. It's like, I'm special. You should recognize that, because they're trying to build up. They're so damaged. They're trying to build that false self they want everybody to buy into.
How does that work when they are in corrections? Is
Well,
that broken down, or does that help them?
It helps them in terms of being offenders, because they can burglarize a whole bunch of people and they can justify that. Well, so can an antisocial.
Sure.
But I have to tell you an interesting experience I had with a client. He had done a whole bunch of burglaries, and he got caught, and he did some prison time. He comes out on parole, and I have him on my caseload, and he's got a job. He's doing pretty well. And one day he comes in and he's extremely upset. I said, "What's the matter?" He said, "I'm so angry." He said, "I bought a new TV, a new VCR, and I got burglarized and somebody took it." And I started laughing. I'm afraid I just started laughing. And he said, "That's not the reaction I was expecting." I said, "But the universe is so wonderful. They're giving you the opportunity to balance out that negative karma. And they're giving you the opportunity to experience what you subjected people to when you burglarized them over the years."
How did they take that answer?
How did he take it?
Yes.
He said, "Well, I didn't think of it that way." So he it kind of stopped him, and he thought, "Well, yeah, I did do a lot of burglaries to other people. They must have been as upset as I was." So he had a moment of insight there.
A moment. Yay, a moment.
Well, but he wasn't doing burglaries anymore. He was off drugs. He was working.
Wow.
He was reporting. He was turning his life around.
Awesome.
But it's wonderful when you start to move toward recovery. The universe comes along and says, "Now, have you really learned this lesson?"
Oh, yes, yes. A
And it's
couple more
gonna-
times it comes
It's gonna-
along.
It's going to
Yes.
shoot something at you.
Yes.
Then
Yes.
you're going to find out if you really have internalized the lesson.
Yes. Yes.
So he wasn't a bad person. He's a spiritual person who did bad things to people, and he had the opportunity to experience that himself.
I'm curious as to how did this adventure
Yeah.
help you move through your own fears?
Well, the interesting thing, and I hate to admit it, is that I could be quite assertive and firm on my job, but then I went home and I was a doormat
Okay.
to my narcissistic husband.
Okay.
I gave away my power because I believed I had the concept that I somehow was responsible. He held me responsible for everything, and therefore I held myself responsible. And
So you carried a double guilt load.
I kind of had a split life
I
because I
guess.
wouldn't put up with from clients what I was putting up with at home. And I've seen that before in other people too.
He was kind of your prisoner. I mean, you were the prisoner and he was kind of the jailer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, what a metaphor, considering the work you were doing.
But here's the interesting thing. One time in my when I was married, and this was after way too many years that I hung in there, I asked my spirit guides. I would make a habit of asking my spirit guides before I go to sleep to help me, to give me some guidance. I said, "Why am I in this marriage?" Because I was miserable. I was just miserable. Because narcissists will make you miserable. And they will stampede on any self-confidence you could hope to have. And here's what they showed me. Here's the dream they showed me. In the dream, I was walking up these wonderful stairs like to heaven, and it was all cloudy and beautiful. And at the top was this incredible fountain. And there was my husband smiling and pointing at the fountain, inviting me to look at the fountain. And I realized in the dream that the fountain was the fountain of truth. So now looking back, I can see that I learned so much in that marriage. It was not easy, but I learned to find my backbone. I learned to stand up for myself. And I eventually had to leave it. I had to find the courage to leave it. And so my spiritual perspective helped me. I probably should have learned it sooner, but it takes whatever time it takes.
Yes, it takes. Yes, it does.
And I realize that sometimes these things that happen to us, they happen for a reason. And all that stuff I went through in my childhood helped me in dealing in a compassionate way with my clients in corrections. I could understand a lot of where their pain came from because I had come through a lot of pain myself. So instead of judging people,
Okay.
we accomplish a lot more if we set up boundaries and limits on
Yes.
what we're going to allow ourselves or if other people in our family to be exposed to.
Yes.
You do need to give them that kind of feedback, but that does not mean that you treat them with disrespect,
Right.
because they are a spiritual being on their own journey. They're just as, in my philosophy, they're just as valuable as we are.
Yes.
They are just as precious in the eyes of our Creator as we are.
And there comes a time when you have to cross the street and walk away because
Exactly.
it serves you no more to be there.
But I see what kept me in that marriage for a long time with a narcissist was I was on the pity pot. I was playing the victim. I felt sorry for myself. Oh, poor me. He doesn't treat me well. He doesn't have any respect for me, and blah, 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 blah. My friends got sick of hearing it. I know they did.
Oh, so you ended up being a complainer to your friends.
Oh, because I was in
about
that victim mode.
it. Yes.
And that is really hard to get out of.
Yes. I had a friend for years that every time we would get together, they would complain about everything, no matter what it was. And finally, I just realized, I don't think I want to spend any more time with this person. So I just kind of drifted away because it didn't serve me to listen to that.
Those are the kind of people that a year from now, they're still having the same conversation.
Exactly.
They're still
Yes.
complaining about the same thing and not doing anything to change it.
Yes.
And I was that person for a while. I was that person way too long. And when I finally decided enough is enough, it didn't matter what the consequences were. And at the time, I had a lot to lose. I had a house to lose. I had just started a new job with the corrections department.
Did you have a specific thought that dropped in or you thought about that set you free to be able to make that move?
Yes, one day I woke up in the morning and I felt like whoever I was dying. Not physically dying, but whoever Katy Gallagher was dying in this marriage.
Okay.
And I knew I had to leave. I hung in there a little longer because we had a son, that was pretty young. I hung in there another 3 years, but I finally found my courage. Now, that does not mean that when you take that step, it's easy. It's not easy.
No, it's not.
And there was a lot of tears and a lot of and here's the interesting thing is my ex-husband and I are friends. Because
Has he woke
I was
up
able.
yet?
Well, he's actually gotten better. It takes. That's the other thing. Antisocial personalities, they pretty much their whole life they have something lacking. They have
Okay.
that ability to really care about others is lacking. It just isn't there.
And they're the blamers, right?
Well, they both blame.
They both
Narcissist
blame.
and antisocial do.
Doesn't the blaming prevent them from doing that internal examination?
Oh, sure.
And
if
not
it's-
filling or not fixing whatever has created that void.
Oh, absolutely. Because if everything that happens to you is someone else's fault, and you get angry, you're not doing any self-examination.
They've actually given away their power to someone else that they're blaming.
Exactly. And here I had an interesting experience because I did something I think was pretty smart. I put myself in counseling for a year when
yes.
I left him
Oh yes.
because I really needed help.
Yes.
I was a mess. And
You recognize that.
oh yeah.
That's the other part of recognizing that you need help.
Exactly.
and then going and getting it.
Well, here's the thing. When you care, you suffer more than someone who doesn't care.
Exactly.
Antisocials have an easier time in the sense that they don't go through the pain the rest of us go through. But you, as you know, if you've lived life at all, you've had somebody leave you, you've gone through a divorce, friends or family have betrayed you or disappointed you. Life isn't easy. It's a lot of hard work. So what the therapists helped me do is get in touch with my anger. And I was really angry. For about 2 weeks, I just exuded anger. I was angry at anything in long pants, at men especially. Any man I was angry at. And I remember it was downtown Portland. It was a bright sunny day. I was walking down the sidewalk during my lunch break, and some poor guy walked past me, and I was just sending anger vibes at him like you wouldn't believe. And I stopped. And I said, my God, I said, that poor jerk didn't do anything to me.
Right.
I said, I just stopped, and right there downtown Portland, and I said to my guides, I said, I can't go on like this. I don't want to be angry like this. And then I had an epiphany. They gave me the whole picture that whatever happened in my marriage to the narcissist was at least 50% responsible. I was responsible for at least 50% of it. Once I accepted that responsibility, it's like a cloud just lifted off of me. It was like there was forgiveness.
I will share an experience. I had my own anger issues, and I didn't know I was carrying around anger. And one time, in fact, we were in Sue's barn that they had raised, and we were having a lesson from a spiritual teacher. And the teacher said 2 words: spiritual abandonment. And as soon as they said that, I let out 3 blood-curdling screams.
The primal screams.
Yes, the primal screams. And I didn't know that was in there. I didn't know I was carrying that kind of pain, anger, disappointment, whatever. And I think the people didn't know how to react, because you don't expect something like that.
Yeah.
But those were the 2 words I needed to get that out.
Yeah.
And one of the things the teacher said is that can save you lifetimes. You know, getting that out, because otherwise, if I hadn't released that, I would have carried it on to whatever my next journey is. And then since then, I've been studying other things to help me understand the principle of fearless forgiveness, so that anything brings fear to the mind needs forgiveness. That doesn't allow you to blame, it doesn't allow you to excuse, but it causes you to accept responsibility. You can't change the world, but you can change your mind about the world.
Yes.
And when you change your mind about it, it makes being in it much easier.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of people misunderstand forgiveness. You're not condoning the behavior.
No.
You're not saying what you did to me was just hunky-dory and I'm just going to blow it off. You're not doing that.
No.
What you're doing, you forgive, not for them. You forgive for yourself.
Right.
Because if you don't, you carry that anger in you and that hurt, and it can continue to hurt you for the rest of your life.
And it releases you from the desire for things to be different than they are, because you can't make anything external change.
That's right.
You can only change your mind about the experience.
Exactly.
And what happens is that some people get stuck in a story about an event, and they can't let it go. And so they
Exactly.
keep stuck in that moment, and that becomes their story, and that interferes with their journey. So the more that we can forgive the things that bring angst to the mind, we can be our authentic self, we can stop the dogma, and be in the present moment with what's really going on. And I have to say, I really admire how you sorted out to see these criminals, that they're spiritual beings, and they're just on a really rough path. That's magnificent.
When you consider the whole issue of addictions, which of course I had to deal with a lot, alcohol, drugs, and sex, and we can become. I'm kind of addicted to chocolate, but it doesn't hurt me. Well, it does hurt me sometimes, but it doesn't hurt other people.
But you enjoy it.
But I enjoy it a little too much. But I found, after 20 years of working with a lot of drug addicts and alcoholics, that the soul that takes that issue on in a lifetime. My hat's off to them. They're brave.
It's not an easy journey at all.
It is not an easy journey, and they literally can go through the depths of hell before they emerge out of it, and they don't all make it.
And think of all the things you learned from them that helped you with your journey.
That's exactly when I had a client come in, and you know, what he was telling me, he was really upset about. He had been adopted, and he found his birth mother, and she didn't want anything to do with him, and all kinds of stuff, and it was resonating with me because I had been there.
Yes.
I had done that.
Yes.
And you don't share that with a client when you're a parole and probation officer. Well, sometimes you do, but I didn't judge him. I didn't say, oh, pooey, you know, and disregard his feelings, because I had been there, and I realized why my childhood had been so difficult to prepare me for that job.
Oh, wow.
I really believe that it gave me compassion and love and caring. Now, it doesn't mean I held their hand and said, oh, you poor dear, you know,
No.
You've been misunderstood by others, and you can just kind of go ahead and go out and do whatever you want. No, I didn't do that. I held them accountable.
And you inspired.
And I inspired.
So
exactly.
That
I'm very proud of that.
Is that something they teach you, or did you figure that out yourself, that you needed to inspire?
Actually, I hate to say it, but I was treated rather badly by some of the other POs when I first started, because they did not consider me the kind of person who I should be to be a PO.
But you proved them wrong.
Well, I hung in there. I refused to leave. Typical Capricorn. I dug in, worked hard, showed up every day, and they couldn't get rid of me. So they finally accepted me eventually.
So Mike just asked me, do you have more things you want to say for about 5 minutes, or do you think we're at the end?
Oh, I can talk all night, but it's just a matter of how long you want to talk.
Let's go for 5 more minutes.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. I think your journey is very interesting, and you have a very interesting perspective, because you don't hear therapists talk about the spiritual part of it.
Yeah.
I think that's significant.
It's very significant, because we're all spiritual beings, no matter what we've done or
Right.
But the one thing I did want to share with people is especially if you're young and your life's ahead of you, and you're going to have friends and maybe intimate partners or marriage potential partners. One of the things that I wished I had known when I was young is that what you're looking for in someone's behavior, does the behavior match the words?
Yes.
Incongruency, it's called.
Yes.
You're looking for incongruencies, like a good detective would look. You know, somebody says that they are going to do this, or they believe this, and then you watch and see, does the action match it? If those two don't, I mean, we all have times when we're incongruent, but with narcissists or antisocial personalities, you want to run, not walk to the nearest exit if you start to see a lot of incongruencies. And the problem with antisocials and narcissistic personality disorders is they're very good at convincing you that they have a good excuse for why they broke the promise, or they didn't do something they said they were going to do. I mean, it can suck you in.
Gee, it sounds like politicians to me.
Well, actually, these antisocial personalities especially make very good politicians. I mean, very successful as CEOs and running their business, and politicians. And I do want to add that in our culture, we have a very narcissistic culture. In our culture in the United States,
Okay.
we kind of look up to and reward narcissism. And TV is a good example of that.
How do you explain that to me? How do we reward this narcissism that you perceive?
We look at characters that are in popular weekly comedy series, for instance, The Big Bang Theory,
Okay, yes.
and look at Sheldon. You know, on The Big
Yes.
Bang Theory, he's
Yes.
a hoot.
He is
But
a narcissist.
he's-
Oh, yes.
Narcissist all the way, you know.
Yes.
Of course, he's acting that, but
Yes.
and many of the characters that we see in other shows are it's all about them and how they're dressed, and they don't
Give us an example.
well,
Specifics.
like I don't watch a lot of the programs where they have narcissists because it irritates me. But
Yeah, I figured it would irritate you.
People who are
If we can come up with specifics, then people get the metaphor better.
yeah,
Kim Kardashian.
yeah.
Mike suggested Kim. Yeah,
Yeah.
Kim Kardashian.
Kim
yes.
Kardashian and
Yeah, I kind of flipped right through that real quick.
yeah, I was trying to think of that other lady. Her
And
father
Kanye
was
West
one of the
too, her
gangsters.
husband? Gangster?
They were the reality shows where it was a long time ago, but she was blonde and lived in a mansion, and her husband was a.
Oh, the
Her
mafia?
father was a mafia.
The Mafia. Oh, yes. I think she was on.
What was the name of that?
Not Paris Hilton. No.
no.
The Mafia. I think she was on The Apprentice. Donald Trump's Apprentice show. The blonde. No.
Blonde, really blonde. Had
Yes.
3 sons.
Gotti.
Gotti. Yeah.
Yes.
And she had an ego so big. She was so narcissistic that I don't know how she got through a door. I don't know how with an ego like that she got through a
Well, you know,
door.
I'll bet that's how she survived that environment.
Yeah.
So I think on one level we need to have compassion for her. But when I saw her on Donald Trump's Apprentice, I really felt sorry for her because I could tell she was acting that way because she's in a lot of pain. She has a void in her soul.
Right.
And that's how she copes with getting through her life. I mean, that's a kind of a heavy burden. Or people that are children of serial killers.
Yeah.
You know, that's a heavy burden to carry.
But as a society, we pay a lot of attention to how people look, not necessarily who they are.
Yes.
Cosmetics and clothes and all the stuff
Right.
that,
Oh, we have a
Oops.
call. Yahoo!
woohoo.
Can I go ahead and get that? Oh, I think they're talking in the back, and they'll tell us
Oh, okay.
if it's a call that we need to answer. They could be just calling.
So
them.
we reward narcissism in the sense that we look up to people that are more glamorous and more this or whatever. And I'm not saying they're all narcissists. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying as a society we kind of like that show.
We
of-
feed them. We feed them.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a phone call. Live phone call.
Goody goody.
Hello, caller. You're on Busting Fear.
Hello?
Hi, this is Carol, and who are you?
Oh, this must not be the live show. I was watching Channel 11.
Yes, this is a live show, Busting Fear, on
Oh,
FETV 11.
Yeah, I'm watching Channel 11.
You're watching Channel
A
11.
growing concern.
A growing concern. Isn't that through CV?
She called the wrong show.
Okay. Yeah, that's a, Mike says that's a CAN station. Is that CVTV?
It's Tualatin Valley.
Oh, I thought it was SVTV. I guess I got it.
Yeah. No, this is a live internet broadcast.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to interrupt.
Well, go to FETV11.org, and there are archive shows there, and we're having a live show right now of Busting Fear. We've got a guest talking about narcissists and
Antisocial.
antisocial personalities. Do you have a question?
Oh, good grief, no. Thank you.
Well, thank you for calling. Okay. Well, I guess we can sign off with that incorrect phone call, folks. At least it was a phone call.
Yeah.
So that was great. So, all right, Bobby Lee, let's hear what you have to sing tonight.
I ain't afraid no more. I ain't afraid to say. And when the words are clear, I know that I will say. Busting out the rules that they control. Busting out a love there in my soul. Busting out a dream that won't be so. I said no to busting fear. Busting fear. Busting fear. Busting fear. Busting fear.